Forming steel really isn't that different from forming non-ferrous metals. Steel is harder and stronger, so it's obviously going to take a little bit more tenacity to form, and you'll get used to really whacking it. I love using some of these non-marring hammers. This is the Frets number 7. I have gotten so much, I think it's a number 7 with the interchangeable tips, and I have gotten so much use out of this. This is a Delrin hammer. You can see it's well loved, and it's a dead blow hammer, which I really like. And then this is interesting. This is a hammer I found when I was in Colorado in an antique store, and I don't know, it's made, feels some sort of plastic or resin, but it's a really good forming tool. So this is the little pendant from our class project, and I just want to form this into a very soft curve. I don't want anything too dramatic because I don't want these little ends to curl too much. So I am just going to use this little curved mushroom stake, I guess is what it's called, and I'm going to just tap it very gently. This is probably too gentle for it, so I'm going to go with this one. There, that's much better. I'm watching my fingers. And you can see it doesn't bend as readily as silver would, for example. So I'm just about where I want it. You know, it's easy to overform things. A little goes a long way, unless you're doing a spiculum or something like that. So that's my gentle curve. This is the cuff that was included as one of the patterns for the class, and I kind of added my own design to it. I pierced it and drilled some holes in it. I don't know if you can see, but I ran it through the rolling mill and put this really nice dot pattern using perforated steel. One of my favorite ways to form is to use these wooden, end grain wooden blocks. These are just pine, and you can make all shapes and types of indentations in them by just using your forming hammer. And so I've got kind of a well in there. And then what you can do is take your forming hammer, and I want to make this into a synclastic shape, but I also want to be very careful that I don't destroy this little dot pattern. You start in the center when you're making a synclastic shape, which is what I'm doing. Start in the center, and I'm just hitting it pretty gently because I don't want to lose that pattern, and I don't want to distort my shapes, my piercing too much in the middle. My plan is that I'm going to put some cambu on the some gold cambu, also in a dot pattern. So I'm hitting it just in the middle, and not too hard because I don't want to mar it too much. So I've gone all the way to the end there. I'm going to turn it around here. Again, hitting it in the middle. Not worried yet about forming it into a cuff. I'm just trying to get that synclastic shape. Okay, I think that is enough in terms of the shape of that. I'm going to go back and just see how gently I'm tapping. You really don't have to go all that hard. I'm just making sure that I don't have any wrinkles in it. Next, I'm going to work on this cuff mandrel, and I'm going to give our synclastic cuff the wrist shape. And notice that I have switched to a Delrin hammer for this, whereas when I was working on wood, I was using a metal forming hammer. And you probably know this already, but when you are forming on wood or plastic or other non-marring materials, It's fine to use a metal hammer. In fact, sometimes you need to. But if you're forming on metal, it's much better to use something that's a little bit softer. So this is how I go about. I start at the end, and you can see I'm kind of at a funny angle, but so I'm just pulling that around. Then I'm going to turn it around this way, and I start at the end, and I'm just going around, giving it that nice cuff shape. Keep switching by just turning it over. That looks pretty darn good. I am going to slip it on my wrist and see how I like it, and I think I like that pretty well. Here's a neat little trick if you want to smooth and give your shape a little bit of form. I've actually turned this hammer. This is one of the NC black hammers. I really do appreciate their hammers quite a bit. A lot of versatile shapes. But if you want to, what you can do, if you want to get just a little more curve, which I do, I'm going to put it right here. So I'm just going to tap that over just a little. There we go. Just a little bit. These are also great for bouging, for smoothing out any hammer marks that you might have. Yeah, that's more what I wanted.